do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets die in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to
Hello, everybody, and welcome to TOFFEE BLUECAST. We have just found out that it now doesn't go live to Twitter because apparently you need to pay for the blue tick to get it to go live to Twitter. So must use being a bit of a bugger there. I'll have to pay for the blue tick on Twitter and probably get mocked for it. So yeah, we'll have to pay for the tick to keep it going live to Twitter. He seems to have took that away. You've got to have the blue tick to go live to Twitter. That's another bill for us, eh? Anyway, get involved, get in the comments. Paul, how are we doing?
Not bad. You know, it's been busy for me. School's finished, but my little sister got married yesterday, so it was a busy few days at the end of a long 2 years in Sheffield. Yesterday, lovely little place just out Sheffield where she got married. Thumbs up to the Maynard if anyone knows it. I can't remember what the name of the place was, but it was beautiful. Yeah, she looked great. He's a Forest fan. I forgive him. He's not an arse, so he's all right. Lovely family, and everyone was happy. But it doesn't have to knock here out, so you know, I'm glad I can have a lie-in tomorrow. What about you?
To do the TOFFEE BLUECAST tonight. I said,
Oh,
Paul,
yeah.
mate, you're coming home. You got your long drive. No, we are talking Everton rumours. Now we've got Rob in the house. They're all coming in.
Good on you, everyone.
Tazzel,
Good to see you.
Eugene, stay with us. We need to know your thoughts. Get involved. Right, so we have got a guest on the show. We often do it. We don't mess about. We want to give you a good listen. And we've managed to get a Leeds fan because we are linked again to Gnonto. So let's get a Leeds fan on the show, Paul. We've got to, haven't we, really? I mean, we've nearly got him last time. It looks bigger this time.
You need a bit of walk-on music, Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to drop some. Give him a boost. Let's take it a bit more extreme. The Leeds fan is in the house. Here he is. Scott is here.
Hello, everyone. I am Scott, as called back the Leeds fan. So there we are. I'm hoping to not try to sell Gnonto to you this evening, so you don't steal one of our prize assets again, like you have already with Harry. There we are. There's no bitterness there.
This is a good thing. We don't even know what you're going to say. We don't know what you think about it. And we don't even know whether you hate us because we've got Harrison. Actually, there's even talk that we might sign Phillips as well. So we're kind of the old Leeds at the minute. It's crazy. But we will cover this. And people in the comments, if you want to ask any questions to Scott, the Leeds fan, keep it nice. I'm sure he'll answer and say what you think. But there's no hiding that we was linked to Gnonto last time. And I think it was around 40 million, which was never going to happen. But Everton fans last time really did want him. I mean, I remember Free Willy Gnonto. That's what some Everton fans was got the Free Willy picture of the whale out and everything, like let him go, because I think then Gnonto said that he wanted to come to Everton. And that probably rattled a few Leeds fans because you don't want someone doing that, do you? So what did you think when that happened?
Yeah, so well, I think you obviously linked massively last summer. From what I know, you bidded about 25.7 million pound. I think Leeds were probably looking more 30 plus, from what I know. And then obviously Wilfried Gnonto wanted to move back to the Premier League. I think naturally playing in the Championships probably not what he wanted to do. I think obviously in the summer as well there was the Euros that's just gone by. He obviously wanted to play in that. You're not going to get into a Euros team playing in the Championships. I think that was probably a big player for him in that as well. And then it became a massive saga, as you know. Obviously, Free Willy became a thing. He started refusing to play for us. And our board, essentially, and Daniel Farke removed him out of the team, kicked him out of the change room and said, look, you're cheering on your own for a while. It's not my job to sell you. That's the club, and they're going to negotiate a deal with Everton. If Everton don't pay the money, you're not going to go. He's still on quite a long contract at Leeds. I think he's got about 3 or 4 years still left this summer. So I think probably we're looking at something maybe quite similar. But yeah, obviously then Gnonto then ends up coming back into the team. The transfer window ends. Obviously, he might as well play. Then he sacked his agent because I think he was probably something to do with it. I think that agent's probably got something to do with it. I mean, he had Zaniolo as an agent, which I know he did similar sort of plays with in terms of the refusing to play and stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably where we're at again. I would imagine Gnonto wants to move again. But again, we're going to fall into the situation of, will you lot pay the money? And the 49ers have been quite sort of strong with their principles in terms of that is the value. We're not going to get bullied because we're a championship club. We've still got good finances. We've still got parachute payments coming in. So it's I think the sort of stance from Leeds United's end is sort of, yeah, pay the money or it ain't going to happen as such. We just got 40 million for Archie Gray. So I think, it's not going to be anything like that for Gnonto, but I would expect, I'm thinking probably 25 million quid against probably. I think if you give that again, I think you might get him, but that's probably where we're at the moment.
Yeah, I think there's one way to annoy all of your fans, whatever player you are, is to refuse to play. I think that's just number one, grade A, gonna get slagged off by everybody, to be fair. And sometimes they have to do it to force a move, but we don't see it like that at all, do we? You should be playing. If you signed with us, you should be playing.
Yeah, well, I think that's the way, and I think in the sort of crowd there was that sort of feeling. I think there was some songs being said. I won't go into exactly on this show what they were singing, but yeah, you can only imagine what was being said in the stands. But obviously, he comes back in. Football fans can be quite fickle. Comes back in, scores a few goals, and all of a sudden he's the star boy again. So it swings in roundabouts with these sort of situations. I think, especially when you're talking about such a top player like Gnonto, especially at championship level too.
Well, when we didn't get him, I was thinking to myself, right, I'm going to have a look in the Championship now. I don't watch Leeds every game, but I do try and look who pops up scoring for him. And I was thinking, is he going to smash it this season and score 15, 20 goals and light up the Championship, and feel gutted that we've missed out on him? He didn't perform that well for you, did he? And when I've looked at some of the comments, because I've been on a lot of Leeds channels before asking you on, trying to get an idea of what the feeling is on him, so we get how you feel on him, and how I want to see how others feel about Gnonto as well. Your fans, some of them really don't like him, do they? Like the comments, for example, spit your dummy out, spoilt little brat. Attitude stinks, dives around the floor more than what he plays football. This is just some of the comments, and then some of the other comments say he has got loads of potential, but he has got a bad attitude. And then, like I say, some are saying you can't take away that he is a really good player. My point is, what happened last season with him? Did he just go on a complete strike to not play for you because you didn't let him go to us? Or is he just generally not the player that a lot think he is?
Well, first of all, if he's the player people think he is, I'm pretty sure he is, to be honest. I think he's probably our second best player in the team, to be honest. I know last season didn't show it, but I think there's a lot of underlying reasons for that. To start the season, he was actually in the team playing quite frequently. At the time, we had Sinisterra as well. Obviously, he left on deadline day. And then obviously he started refusing to play and then lost his place in the team. Then where he naturally plays, which is the left-hand side, that's where he played under Marsh in the Premier League. That's where he's played basically all his career at Leeds United. He obviously then lost his place to Crescencio Somerville, who went in there and started having a fantastic season. I'm sure you've all heard about the season that Somerville had, one player of the season. And then when Somerville gets in, he basically becomes undroppable in that left-hand side position. So then Gnonto gets sort of forced onto the right-hand side, which doesn't really suit him as much. But before he even does that, Dan James is playing really well, scoring week in, week out. We were actually blessed, to be honest, with probably the best wingers I could probably ever think of a championship team having, which was a bit of an anomaly in that sense. And still surprising to me to this day that we didn't go up. But when you've got Crescentio Somerville on one side and Dan James on the other side, a £25 million signing, and they don't play and them two are scoring week in, week out, it's going to be very hard to get back into the team. Then you think, well, can he play in the 10? But we've got a £35 million Jorginho Rutter in that position, who's playing week in, week out, playing really well as well. So then he loses his position, his place, and he didn't really gain his place back in the team until around January time, when Dan James got an injury, Gnonto comes in the team, and then starts to play well again, but playing on the right hand side. Then it ends up scoring his, I believe, second goal of the season, maybe away at Bristol City. And from that point on, he was probably, I thought coming to the end of the year, he was probably our best player, I'd have said, in terms of form wise. He got injured himself actually right near the end. I think maybe if he hadn't done, we might have ended up in a different league this year, but that it is what it is. There's other contributing factors to that for sure. But yeah, that is the premise of what happened. And I do think that the ability is there, and I don't think that last season is a fair reflection. And actually, it's funny, I've got a Leicester mate who I was talking to, and I talked to quite regularly. And he was saying sort of, would he be a good signing for us? And I said, well, yeah, he would, because actually his stock's quite low at the moment, because as you rightly said, he didn't have a particularly good year in the Championship last year. But there is contributing factors to that. So actually, I don't think he's much worse than Somerville. You could argue they're probably the same level. Yet Somerville comes out and people are quoting 35, 40 million quid for him. And Gnonto, they're quoting maybe 20 to 25 million. And I think at that price, when you're looking at him, he actually makes him a real bargain, to be honest, because the abilities are still the same. It's just naturally, Somerville takes that left-hand side spot. Gnonto can't get it back because Somerville's playing so well. And then he can't show his true potential. So you're probably getting a player that's actually didn't show his true potential in the Championship last year and didn't have a particularly good season. But that doesn't mean that if you bought Gnonto and didn't buy Somerville, that you're probably going to get a better product at Everton. I think you're probably going to get the same level of output. In fact, I'd argue that Gnonto's off the ball and work rate is probably better than Somerville's is, to be perfectly honest. And I know in a Sean Dyche team, obviously defensive duties would be massively important. And it interests me that actually you do go for Gnonto over Somerville, because I think sort of Somerville, I'd like to say, is probably a bit more relaxed in his defending, whereas Gnonto is a sort of gets quite fired up in games, and naturally, therefore, he's a really good presser of the ball and really good defense, and he's happy to do his defensive work as well. So I think genuinely that he would be a good signing for us, and I don't think that at all that last season's reflection of him at all, really, and that's probably where I'm at with it. I said I want to sell him to you, by the way, and I think I've just done that, but there we are.
We've had this before with Illiman. We've just signed Illiman from Sheffield United, and it was the same with him. You can only be honest as a fan. I mean, if you're told to talk about a player, you're not going to tell complete lies about the player. You've got to generally say what the player is, and that's all you're doing. And we wanted Gnonto last time, and we still want him. And I'm going to put it over to Mr. Statman, Paul here. What you got, Paul?
No, just from what Scott was saying, this is the lineup for your, I think your semi-final. Was it Middlesbrough? But like you were saying, Gnonto's there on the right. When he was Premiership, I'm pretty sure he played left-hand side, didn't he?
Yeah, he did,
sort of. I remember your home games. He was always the one that you could sort of see the back of his shirt running at the defender's left-hand side. So it's interesting that over the last 18 months, Somerville has taken that spot, and Gnonto's right, because if he did come in, and I've asked the question on the banner at the bottom going across, people can answer in the comments, is that if he came into our side, who would he take over? So if he played in his preferred left, that's where McNeil plays, one of our hardest working players, to be fair. Not always the most successful, but does a really good job. If he played right wing, he'd be taken over from Harrison.
He's better than Harrison.
Yeah, so if it happened to be that kind of situation, it'd be interesting to see who he would take over from and who Dyche would drop if it did kind of get to that situation.
In terms of the McNeil and Harrison thing, I think you make a valiant point there. And I think McNeil will be hard to take out the Everton team naturally because he brings a lot. What I would say on that is I do think if you're talking about a ceiling of a player, I think Gnonto's ceiling compared to a McNeil is quite different, to be perfectly honest. I think Gnonto, I remember him playing away at Villa in the Premier League, and Gary Neville was on commentary. We actually lost the game 2-1. And Gary Neville said, look, this is a player that looks like a Man City player to me. It looks that good. So he is genuinely a phenomenal talent, and probably much better than probably McNeil was at that age, I'd have said. And he also, they've been on our wings at Leeds United, and I'm telling you for a fact, he's better than Jack Harrison. I know he's been a bit hot and cold at Everton, Harrison anyway. Gnonto can be like that because of his temperament. He seems to care so much in games. And when people talk about him being a bit of a crybaby and he constantly gets yellow cards for kicking the ball away and just doing stupid, petulant things, but it's because he gets so emotionally involved in the game that he ends up overreacting in certain scenarios, which is, I know at Everton you love to see passion, and if you're looking for a passionate player, that is what you're going to get from Wilfried Gnonto. Definitely, he will sort of leave it all on the pitch. If that comes out in the right way or not, it can vary on the game and how the game state is. As I said, you can get an outburst, and then you can get stupid yellow cards picked up constantly. There's times where you're going, he needs to come off, he's going to get himself sent off here. But then on the flip side, if he's at his full best and it's all going well for him, then he genuinely can be a match winner for you.
Yeah, and I think Coleman said, I think Coleman or Baines have said it many, many times, is that anyone who comes to Everton, as long as you give your everything, then the fans will love you for it. You know what I mean? It's the main thing. And I think Harrison's thing for me is that he always drifts inside. I know there's been a couple of occasions that he's got to the line and crossed in, but that's what I think we wanted from him. You know, because we did have the big fellas in the middle of the box. We wanted people to get to the byline and then cross it in. I know McNeil can do that, but Harrison wasn't really doing that as much as we wanted him to. Whereas you could see Gnonto taking it a step further, I think so.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned though cutting inside, because Gnonto does drift inside. That is what he does. I mean, that's why he's so prolific on the left hand side, because naturally what he wants to do is come in and have a shot. Basically, he's not. I think you get sort of two sort of wingers, the sort of like assisting wingers who want to be involved in build up and trying to sort of not be the main man that actually scores the goal in the end. Gnonto isn't that sort of player. If you're getting the best out of Gnonto, you're playing him on the left-hand side and hoping he cuts inside and smashes one in from 25 yards. That is the Gnonto game, and that's what he can do. But he can drive to the touchline as well. I'm not sure the situation with Calvert-Lewin, because I think there's rumours that he might be moving on. I'm not sure what's actually happening there. But if he's going to be a perfect solution to provide assists for the likes of Beto and Calvert-Lewin, I'm not 100% sure. He's probably better in a team with technicians, I'd have said, than an Everton team, which is slightly why the link does surprise me, and why it surprised a lot of Leeds fans last year that it was Everton that was pushing the boat on it, because I think the way that probably the teams maybe like a Brighton would play might suit him a bit more. Having said that, naturally, because his defensive work rate is good and he has got quality going forward, I think that's probably why Dyche would sort of warrant a transfer of Wilfried Gnonto.
Do you know towards the end of the season, did he play as like a wing back with the three centre backs in that sort of formation?
No, last season, Farke's a full-on 4-2-3 man, so he basically played all season on the right-hand side, really. In the Premier League, under Marsh, we started doing weird things, but I don't ever recall him playing at wing back, really.
Well, sometimes, I mean, in the comments as well, it's all, I think, like you say, it's player over player. Like, can he get in over McNeil? But sometimes you've got to remember it's a long season. 100%. Premier League's very straining, and 60 minutes, McNeil might be burnt out. The amount Dyche, I know Dyche isn't well known for making substitutions, but you look at Arsenal, they're taking players. They're taking like the left back off 50 minutes. They're taking the centre midfield off 50 minutes. And I think the way the Premier League is now, your bench is very important because it's a good weapon. Your energy's on the bench. And if your bench is strong, you can bring players on to win you the game. And Everton's bench hasn't been that strong. And I think if we can literally have a good competition on the left with McNeil and Gnonto, instead of just McNeil every week in, week out, if we've got good competition there, then it makes Everton better. And it pushes Everton to perform better. And I look on the right-hand side, Jack Harrison last season, I think Ashley Young was getting in sometimes for him, wasn't he, Paul? Jack Harrison was dropped a couple of times. And he wasn't playing right wing. And I can remember when we watched the Burnley game, Paul, Harrison was on the bench and he come on towards the end. So it's not like Harrison's in, week out as well. So although some Everton fans think, right, we've got McNeil, we've got Harrison, we don't need no one else. If you actually think back to the way the league went, sometimes Harrison wasn't doing it. That's the time you could have put Gnonto on the right. Sometimes McNeil just wasn't doing it. He was burnt out and he got injured. That's when you could have put Gnonto on the left. We do need a big squad. And I don't generally, you don't need to say it's got to be him or it's got to be him. It's like we do it with Beto and Calvert-Lewin. You probably do need 2 strikers. So I can see the logic on that sense, on the reason that we probably want 2 wingers. It would only mean, because you've got to remember Harrison's on loan. You might not sell us Harrison. If we do sign Gnonto, our only 2 wingers are McNeil and Gnonto, because Harrison could go back. And then we haven't got Dobbin's gone now. So we do need wingers, don't we, Paul? Do you get it? We probably do need wingers.
Definitely, because we haven't.
It makes sense.
Well, pace and width. The 2 things that we didn't really have last season, to be honest. Never mind goals. So there's definitely attacking options that we need to create, and we need to keep the defensive ones that we've currently got. So
it's interesting on what you just said as well, Scott. A lot of people just think Dyche is to the wings, cross the ball, but what you do need to remember is Dyche has never had. He hasn't had players with the ability to actually play football. No offense to the Burnley fans, but they'll probably admit as well, they probably couldn't play what the football that Dyche wanted. So sometimes Dyche would play to what the players are. These Everton players that we've got couldn't play football much that last season. So it was a bit cross the ball, long ball. But then we have just gone and signed this young, tricky player in the centre, Iliman, number 10, that looks like he could be a good open doors and stuff like that. So I'm seeing, might be wrong here, might just be getting an excited Everton fan. Onana's gone. We've brought Timmy Roben in, so that's a new centre midfielder that might be good on the ball. Garner's good on the ball. Iliman's tricky in front of him on the ball. Like you just said, Gnonto's technical. There's just been an announcement now that we might be getting the Napoli guy. He looks technical. He looks good. So would you say that we're going for a complete, different style, Paul? Or would you say that these players, am I wrong to believe that?
Different style, I'd be surprised, to be honest. I think what we're probably looking at is being able to press higher up the pitch. And Leeds have done that. The way Leeds have played in the Championship, it's tended to, Scott know better than anyone, really. But I would have seen Leeds as being a high pressing side, win the ball in the opposition's half or on the halfway line. They got a bit of pace and then create the chances for whoever to put in. So we didn't defend very high up the pitch. We defended very deep, particularly if we scored first, which was the only way that we were going to win a game, it seemed, most of the time. So I think the aim seems to be from the players who are being touted or being brought in that we will pressure teams higher up the pitch to be able to try and score more goals, to be fair. And I hope that's the way. There's nothing more frustrating than dropping back, particularly against some of the sides that we did. I went to the Sheffield United game. We both went to the Burnley game. And the way that we dropped back almost onto the edge of our own box is just frustrating as hell, isn't it? So staying higher up the pitch, winning it there and having a bit of pace to destroy teams, not just 1-0s all the time. It's highly frustrating.
You're right. And I like the way you put it, Paul, because you put it better worded than me. And we do want to press high and turn the ball over high and defend, kind of attack to defend, if you know what I mean. Push up and turn the ball over high. Leeds was really good at it, by the way. And I used to like the way Leeds played before you got relegated. I always thought your defence was your weakness. I think if you had, we've got Branthwaite and Tarkowski who are solid. Like our defence, fair plays for Everton keeping Branthwaite because he is sensational. And Tarkowski, I reckon he's going to be cracking this season as well. So our defence was the second probably best defence in the Premier League last season. So I think Leeds was always cracking attacking. And still now, when you've just spoke about Leeds last season, you've said you've got all these good wingers. I think your weakness has been your defence and probably your midfield getting it to the attackers. I don't think your weakness has ever been your attackers. Your attackers are strong. You've always had cracking attackers. And when I used to watch you, I remember watching you come back against Man City with 10 men, with Jack Harrison, Phillips and Rafinha. And you had a wicked team with Bielsa. You pressed high. And exactly what Paul's just said, like press, turn over the ball. And some teams just couldn't handle that. I'd like to think that we're trying to go that sort of way with a stronger defence, because I think it would have worked for you if you did have a stronger defence. There is a question in the comments that Paul said earlier on, one of our guys, he said, I think I know the answer to this. But it's not linked to Gnonto. Ask the Leeds. We hate to miss the subscribers' comments. Ask the Leeds pal if Somerville has left the club.
No, he hasn't yet. I expect he probably will come the end of the window. There's still quite nearly over a month left of the window, so I expect he does leave. But as yet, I think all us Leeds fans are quietly hoping that he does stick around, because he's probably a ticket out the league for us next year with the sort of weakness of the league. So yeah, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I do expect he moves on. I think Gnonto will move on as well. If it's Everton or not, I'm not so sure. But I do expect he moves on. One thing I did want to ask you about, actually, because the first thing I thought of when I thought of Gnonto to Everton, because I think you're probably right in saying on paper he might not be a Sean Dyche signing. In the same way, I don't think Ndiaye is either. Is there a situation where these are club signings? Because we know, obviously, Kevin Thirlwell's got a very sort of a high position in the Everton board and sort of try regenerate the club as such. Do you think there's potential where he's looking at it and going, look, these players might not work for Dyche, but if we do want to change system and go to something a bit more sort of the modern way, I guess, without, I guess is probably the best way of wording it, these players would fit straight in and look, they might work for Dyche as well, and Dyche has probably agreed to them. But is this coming from a Kevin Thirlwell, do you think?
I think we've had. I was just going to say, I think this relationship that Dyche and Thirlwell have got is probably the strongest football director / manager relationship that we've had since God knows when. Really, everyone else has been banging heads. So when Brands, I liked Brands. I thought he had the right sort of aura about him, but the managers that we had at the time didn't get on with Brands. And the thing was, Mashiri was having that in his ear from whoever, agents or otherwise, and the manager. And then Brands was maybe saying this on the other side, and it never really linked. Whereas all of the sort of vibes and evidence that, I know it's social media and everything else, but everything that Dyche says and Thirlwell has said seems to be very positive. And they've not said trust the process, but
we get that a lot.
But it does seem to be as though they're on the same page. So I think Dyche is at some point, unless he's going to be a Big Sam for the rest of his kind of career, if he gets a team that is going to then be, I'm not saying we are this season, but has the potential to move where we used to be, then the football generally has to evolve and change, and your quality of player has to improve as well. So we were at a stage, certainly over the last 3 years, where we were kicking and digging in and everything to get points. Whereas hopefully some of these players who are a bit more technical might be the way moving forward, and Dyche can then evolve as a manager as well as us evolving as a team and a club, and hopefully then that's everyone on the same page moving forward. If we can kick Mashiri into touch, then hopefully everyone will be on the same page, and we can improve that way, is what I would have said.
Do you know what?
So I think it's a decent relationship.
It's a really good question. I think I can't find the comment now, but that kind of what you just said, Scott, come up in the questions in the comments. Sorry that I haven't shown it, but you've answered one of the questions. Like, are these Dice signings or are they farewell shot signings?
Mm.
When we got an interview from Kevin Farewell, he said, "Whatever, I'm just the man that makes sure Dice has got all of the stuff that he needs." That's what he says. So he says, I'm just around Dice and I make sure he's as relaxed as he can be and he gets everything that he needs, and I like give him all the tools that he needs. So listening to that, you'd think that Dice has got a say on these, and it is shocking us because they're not Dice signings, are they really? But then, like Paul's just said, has Dice ever had the opportunity to have these sort of players and play good football? Like, has he never had that hand? That's what I'm thinking to myself. Like, can Dice actually play attacking football? Can he actually make these attacking players play well? Because McNeil, technical, but he wouldn't run past the player last season. Jack Harrison, he runned into players more than what he ran past players last season. He seemed to run into them a lot. We keep saying we haven't got wingers that are going to go past players and put the threat that they're going to take them on. So maybe Dice just hasn't had those sort of players. If we go and get Gnonto that is just going to completely tear a player up, and Illiman that's going to do the same, Dice is he's clever enough to say, right, I'm going to get you to do your strength, and surely he's going to want these players and play to these players' strengths. So I am intrigued on whether we're going to see a different Dice, because we've got to. Otherwise, like you've just said, Scott, we're going to see whether Dice has asked for these players. Because if he pushes them out, if he's not using them and his tactics don't suit the players, clearly the Farewell's option, and Dice didn't want them and wants to stick to his old ways. Or has Dice got an idea in his head where he wants to play with skillful players, push higher, and make Everton a lot more of an attacking team? That's just my thought on that. I don't know.
Only thing I'm worried about with Everton, if I was looking in from an outsider, I thought you tried to go for it a bit at Chelsea away last year, and it didn't go particularly well. And if that's probably either scared Dyche off from doing that later down the line or not, I'm not too sure. But when I watched you in the first sort of 10 minutes, you were flying at them, full on high press, completely going for it. Obviously, Beto missed a really good chance in that game, but he did get picked off in the end quite convincingly. And that's obviously, that is not what Sean Dyche will expect. So naturally, will he try that again? I'm not so sure. The only thing I would say as well is, as a fan that is now commenting on a championship team, be careful what you wish for, lads. Because I made a video when we were in the Premier League that I've now deleted, saying that, look, I don't want Sean Dyche anywhere near Leeds. And now you're in the Premier League and we're still in the Championship. So, you know, sometimes it's not as bad as it seems. And I can tell you that because obviously you lot were really close to going down. We actually did go down. And I think probably had we brought Dyche in and you hadn't got him, it might have been the other way around. So I think there's a bit of it where I think everyone's obsessed with sort of being the next Brighton and playing this fantastic football. But I do genuinely think at times, well, you've got a sort of winning formula here. I mean, you amassed a massive amount of points last year and stayed up regardless of points deduction that you had. So if I thought it was a really positive season from Everton, I don't think you're blessed with loads of quality. So I think sometimes you've got to go, look, let's take a few days, let's sort of solidate where we are. And then in a few years' time, when we can build up a bit more of our quality that we lost, obviously when you spent a load of money quite poorly, that maybe then in the future you can sort of look to progress at the league. But I think right now, I think you're fine, because as I said, we really tried with the sort of the names like your Jesse Marshes comes in and has all these fancy ideas of how we're going to press and how we're going to play off the ball and sort of how we're going to move the ball with different systems. Coming from the Red Bull setup, and it just didn't work, and it took us down. So yeah, I think sometimes you just got to go, look, this is not the end of the world what we're doing right now. And I think that's what I think.
It's interesting when it's hard. Dyche has got quite a few tactics in the locker. Some just think is predictable, but sometimes what we'll do is when a team try and pass out from the back, we push onto it and keep no space, turn over the ball, and that's the way we'll look to score. Then when we sit back, Dyche has got everything really compact, and then we want a player to just get us up the pitch. That's probably why he's looking for someone like Gnonto sometimes, because I think when we sat back, Paul, in our 4-5-1, we are one of the hardest teams to beat last season. The Chelsea game you watched was probably the worst game ever. So that's probably not a good one to have watched. We got spanked and Palmer got a hat trick, but we beat Chelsea the other time we played them. We sit back, we're good, no space, compact, and sometimes we need someone like Gnonto, I feel, to just get us up the pitch. As I've heard Big Sam say, Big Sam bloody hell, I don't think Dyche is like Big Sam, but Sean Dyche says, pass the ball when you can pass the ball. And I think that's what we do. We stay compact. Sometimes we'll just do the boring stuff, but then when we can pass, we will pass. Against Newcastle, 28 passes and Beto scored. 28 Ole's, like ole, 28 passes against Newcastle, and we scored. So we have got that in the locker. It's just Dyche needs to get the players probably to do it more, and I think that we might do it more. But I get what you're saying. Like, watch what you wish for, because Dyche ain't stupid. He ain't just going to give games up and lose them easy and just get our defences to like push up and be very fragile.
That's what we did. We were going on hideous runs where we won like 2 games in about 20, like something utterly ridiculous. And you'd hear Marsh come out week in, week out saying, yeah, but the performance is there. And we're all like, yeah, but we are going to go down, mate. So you're going to have to sort this, because it's all good saying that we're playing well and we're XG winners.
XG, baby.
XG, but we're not getting any points here. So, eventually this is going to have to come to an end. And we got a massive result away at Liverpool. And probably kept him in a job. And it was probably our worst result of the season, because if he'd have gone then, you never know who we'd have got in. But yeah, I think that's definitely a point. Sometimes just it's not that bad, because I'm telling you, going down is hideous. It's horrendous. All your best players leave. No one wants to be there. All your best players, if they're not there, don't want to play for you. You're constantly getting cherry picked from the best teams from the worst teams that you compete with in the Prem. It's horrendous. Yeah.
I'm going to be nice to you now, though. You're standing your ground, and I don't think you're in that much of a bad situation, because the fees that you're getting for the players, I think you stood your ground a bit too much last season, because obviously you wanted to come up and keep the players and just keep them and play with them next season in the Premier League, and it just didn't work for you. Like I say, I just think that was down to your defence, not down to your attackers. But you are standing your ground. Smodics, I've just seen you're in for. I am going to give you a bit of positivity on your team, because you look like you're going to get good fees for your players, and I think you'll have a good rebuild this season and probably build it better. But you just need to get that defence strong.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about
last season.
I know what you're saying about getting good fees, but the problem is with the Championship is that you can't bring in anyone that's that good, because no one wants to play in the Championship. So the relegated teams do so well because they've got players already who are really good. And when they go down, then players haven't left and they can still play. But we can't buy a Somerville if we're in the Championship. We can't buy a Gnonto in the Championship. These players just aren't accessible to Championship teams. So it's all good saying, let's sell Archibald for 40 million, let's sell Gnonto for 25 million, let's sell Somerville for 30 million. But you're never going to be able to bring in anyone even if you could spend 100 million, no one wants the 100 million pound players, or even 20 million pound players don't want to play in the Championship. And that's where the problem lies.
You know what? You're right, because that's happened to us. Like, you've probably seen the antics with Manchester United. Like, Manchester United have just gave us so much shit with Branthwaite. But fact is, we're never going to buy a centre-back Branthwaite's quality again. And if we was to go and buy a centre-back Branthwaite's quality, we'd have to overpay, because he just probably wouldn't want to play for Everton, because we're not in that position that's quite appetising at the minute. So, like, Manchester, I'm glad we've kept Branthwaite. And you're right, it's the same with us. It is the same with us. Sometimes you're just not going to get those players again. And that's why you do things the way we're doing it. Like, Leeds brought loads of good young players that are proper gems, and that's what put you in this good situation where you've got the gems. And Everton are doing the same. We're trying to buy. That's the way we're doing things now, won't we, Paul? I mean, this Lindstrom, Illiman, we're going for all young talent, Timmy Robenham. We're going for these young gems that hopefully become a gem. And that's the only way you're going to get the gem, because we're never going to pay 60, 70 million for a player that's already established. And they probably wouldn't want to come to us anyway. So that's the way we do it.
Scott, you're dead on. I say it every season. Anytime there's any transfer speculation and people want to get rid of Pickford, or they want to, get shut of, whoever's our best player at the time, because, it's great, you've got all that money, but you're not going to get that player again. You basically got 25 players, 23, 25 players in your league squad. they've got to be the best possible 25 players that you can get. So whether you've got 50 million, Onana or 50 million, the argument there is how you feel about Onana, for example. So Onana, if you really like him, you keep him in your side. If you want 50 million, then you get better players than you've already got. Now, at our stage at the moment, there's plenty of players we could get that are better than what we've got in particular positions. So it makes sense. But, same with you guys. There's no point getting rid of Gnonto or Somerville or, the other guys who've been doing well for you, because your aim surely now, after having finished in the playoffs, will be to come up automatically this season. But if you don't keep your best players, same as us, if we sold all of our best players, there's no guarantee that we would get better players in by the time the season starts to get us higher up than where we finished last season.
Well, that's what we did.
That's the scary part, Scott, because if you don't keep yourself appealing and you lose all those players, we've seen teams like Derby County, Blackburn, you can end up in that championship and the good players just might not want to come to you. You can stay in the championship for a very long time. It's your job to get straight back in the Premier League ASAP. Yeah.
Well, you've got.
I know how it works though. But I get what he's saying though, Paul, because he's like literally. It feels like keeping those good players is that hope on getting back in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? You are the standard of your best players, and that's what I'm saying. We used to do it with Lukaku. This is different, but Lukaku, we knew Lukaku was a Europa League player. And we knew he'd push us to that Europa League standard. And he did. He got us in Europa League. And you want to keep that player because you know that player's that standard and you push to that standard. So you need those good players in your team to push to their standards. Like if you manage to keep Somerville, he'll smash it up. You'll push the Somerville standard. Leeds will be better. And you'll come up and you'll smash it. And you'll be a good team. That's what you want. You push to your best players. You need to keep some good players in your team. I think Smodics will be a very good signing, though, with what he did in the championship last season, and we've got an Everton fan that do you not like him.
Well, I'm not. I went on my channel and actually said controversially that I don't think we should buy him. I don't think he's the right fit. I don't think we actually need that profile because he's he's not a full-on striker. He's sort of like a shadow number 10-ish player.
False nine.
Actually, yeah, he is. Yeah, and we've got tons of them players anyway. We've got Rutter that can sort of play that role. We've got Perot that plays that role. We've got Brendan Aronson coming back from Union Berlin. There's not really a need for that, and I'd rather us spend the money elsewhere, to be honest. But yeah, you're absolutely are right. And when you're on about Branthwaite and Onana and who are all your sort of big ticket items as such that you've got at the club, we sold the year we went down. We sold Rafinha in the summer and we sold Calvin Phillips, and we basically bought every £20 million player in world football and we bought Aronson there's 20 million. Then we bought Rasmus Christensen. Then we bought Rocker. Then we bought Adams. And you thought, well, look, we've got two sort of, if you say 9 out of 10 footballers, and then with a bunch of 5s around them, let's just try buy a load of 7s and then have a whole team of 7s. And overall, as a team might be better. And I think that's probably what you look at if you're going to sell a Branthwaite. But these players are guarantees, and Branthwaite is a guarantee next year. He's going to be a really good centre half. We might replace him, buy a right back, buy a striker, and it just doesn't, and they don't work, and you end up just, and you've obviously wasted money in the past, so you'll know all about this. But that sent us down really. I mean, you put Rafinha back on the right hand side for us the year we went down, we probably don't go down because we're just taking goals out of the team. But in the same breath, at the points, you get to a point, and you might get to a point with Branthwaite where he goes, look, I don't want to play here anymore. I'm not going to sign a new contract anyway, so you're going to have to sell. So there is that as well with it. It's not as black and white, I guess. There's other elements to it.
So Dan, would you have Gnonto? Would you get?
Well, I was just going to say we'll put a finish on Gnonto, and we'll try and talk a little bit about Kevin Phillips for 5 minutes before we end the show. I mean, the main topic's been Gnonto. We probably will have a show on Lindstrom because it looks like that loan with the obligation to buy people is very, very close. So we'll probably have a show on him from Napoli. But Gnonto, although Lindstrom, we're going to get him a number 10. People are saying, do we need all these attackers? Lindstrom looks like it's going to be done. A lot of people have said it. With a loan with the obligation to buy, that looks like it's going to be done. I still think that this Gnonto deal, it doesn't affect that. We are after a winger. We put the money down on the Hull guy that Aston Villa got, and it didn't go through. And now we've moved on to Gnonto. Now, Scott, do you do the Willie jokes on Gnonto? Because all the Everton fans want a bit of the Willie. You know what I mean? Is that what you do as well, or are us Everton fans just Willie obsessed?
I think you're Willie obsessed at Everton. I mean, there's a few of it going around. We used to have a song about Willie in the crowd, so I guess we do a bit. But it's since to be honest with you, since he sort of decided not to play, the chance of him in the ground, as you can imagine, have sort of disappeared. To be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it probably did change, but we are like Everton fans want the Willie. I need some Willie. Give me the Willie. Let me have Willie. It seems to be what's going on at the minute. Everton fans really do like him. We wanted him last time. We want him again. We just remember him as the lad that he was in the Premier League for you when he teared up Man United, and he just looked fire. And I'm not going to lie. When I watched Italy in the Euros, which we did a Euro show, I was thinking, Italy, why haven't you got Gnonto? Like, they missed that spot, because when you watch Germany, they had good wingers. That's why they was good. When you watched Spain, they had good wingers. That's why they was good. And Italy didn't have good wingers. And I was thinking, why haven't you got Gnonto in the team? So Gnonto really excites me. A few Everton fans think he was shit for you last season and probably think we might get that player. But I am I see the best in him. I always
the ones that do think he's shit. I would like to know like how much they actually know about the situation at Leeds, because when he did play, he was genuinely really good. He wasn't at his scintillating best, but he didn't. As I said, he's better on the left-hand side, and we were playing him on the right. And then we had James, who he didn't come in the team till Christmas because James would play him really well and scoring literally week in, week out, which he was at that time. And he'd also lost a bit of it because he gets spurred on by the crowd and stuff. When you've lost your song in the crowd, I think that probably played into it a bit as well. So there's a lot of contributing factors. And as I said, sometimes you're better buying a player that's had not an amazing season, which Gnonto had, because you get him at a lower stock, so you get him at a better price. If he'd have had an unbelievable season, I don't think I'd be coming here. I think we'd be talking probably what we were last season again, because there isn't. I don't think Somerville's a bit different because he's got 2 years left on his contract. So you're probably in a situation where you might have to make a decision there if he ain't going to sign a new deal. But Gnonto's got longer than that. So there's just no. I'd be surprised if one, we're selling for a cheap price, but two, I think you can get him at a cheap price than last season quoted because he didn't have a bad year. So, but the player's still the same. Just because he's had a bad year, it's not any different. It's just his stock's a bit lower.
Someone made me absolutely poo my pants earlier on because they messaged me, they DM'd me and said Gnonto, because I tweeted I wanted him on the TOFFEE BLUECAST, and they said I've heard that Aston Villa have got him for Gnonto as well. And then I was like, oh my God, just get him quick. Just get Gnonto quick. Like, you know what it's like. You don't realise you want to play so much until he's nearly taken away. The question is, we're finishing on him now. Can we get Gnonto? Because us Everton fans, it feels like we've been after him for about 100 years. Can we actually even get him? Have we even got the money to get him? Can this deal be done? Paul's put it on there. Answer the question, would you have Gnonto? Are we all just talking about this and this is going to be something that Everton wasn't ever going to get him anyway, or can it actually happen? Do you believe it's going to happen, Scott?
Yeah, I think there's much more chance this year you get him than last year. I think last year I think the club were going, look, we're just, these are our top players. We'll keep them and we'll go up, and then we won't need to sell them. And then they won't need to leave. I think this year there's probably a more openness to sell, because remember, we've got parachute payments money. First year you get 42 million quid. Second year you get 35 million quid. And then the one that's going to really hit us if we don't, which is quite
He just said we might get Gnonto, people. You got to have a little bit of a boogie for that. He thinks it's possible.
I tell you what,
do you think we might get him? Do you think we're going to get him, Paul? You want him?
Do want him. I think he's different. He's different than anyone we've got. You know our feelings on players that we've been bringing in that we're getting from teams who've been relegated. Now, that's not me sort of looking down on anyone at all, but if you've got teams who've gone down to another division, what you bring in, is that going to be better than what you've got? Gnonto, I think, is something different. Whether I think he's something better, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I'd say the same. You know what? I'd say the same thing. I'd ask Scott the same thing, really. For example, if the only players that you brought into Leeds in this transfer window were players from League One or League Two, would you immediately be thinking they're better than what you've got? Do you know what I mean?
Look, it's a fair point, but there's so many good players that get relegated. I mean, we were a point off getting relegated with Rafinha, who moved straight to Barcelona. So
Yeah.
I don't think there being in a relegated team does matter, to be honest, because there are individuals out there. You're not buying the team, you're buying an individual here. So, and I genuinely believe quite convincing that if we had, look, you lot are going to hear this, and Everton fans are probably going to root for this. If we had McNeil last year and we had Harrison, they wouldn't have played. They would have been 4th and 5th choice wingers, because we've got better wingers than that. Somerville's better than him. Gnonto's better than him. James, maybe they could have got in over there. But in terms of, like, Leeds fans are not asked if in fact, I think Harrison gets signs for you next summer if we get promoted. I don't think we're going to go anywhere near our team anymore. I think that bridge is probably burned. Gnonto's the best, would be your best winger. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. And if he wasn't playing, then it'd be your loss. I honestly think that. And I'm not sure who you'd buy for 25 million that's going to be better than him, to be honest. You might better get some name from the continent that I'm not aware of. But in terms of buying from a lower league in this country, or even in the Premier League side, you're not. He's honestly class. Like, he's genuinely quality. So
ringing endorsement. That's it, Dan. I'm sold.
Do you know what? I love it, because sometimes you have got that player that just keeps the team higher than what they probably should be. And I think sometimes you look at the player that why was Burnley in the championships in the Premier League so long with Dyche, and why did Burnley get Europa League? Probably because they had Tarkowski, who's incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like that, some players that have got Tarkowski got relegated, and look how good he is for us. I think some players that get relegated still can be incredible. I think Iliman might be one. He'll be a player that could be. He's going to shock a lot. And I think Gnonto as well. I really do. Gnonto has got a lot to bloody prove, because he's lost that Italy spot. He'll want that back. I think Gnonto will think, you know what? I am really pissed off that they didn't let me play in the Premier League when I was tearing the Premier League up. And I think he was probably on a strop with Leeds last season, because, like you say, the Leeds fans had turned on him a little bit, rightly so, because he shouldn't have done. You don't treat a club like that. We would have been pissed off. So I think Gnonto just wasn't Gnonto for you last season. And I think he needs the move. And if he gets the move, I think we're going to be on to a player that's got so much to prove that Dyche can push. And by what Scott's just said, I'm excited. We need these type of players that have got loads to prove, hunger and fighting them. I'm excited with him.
But yeah, I mean, look at the players that have been relegated. Would you not have took James Maddison? He got relegated. Would you not have took, I don't know, Tillemans? He got relegated. Would you not have took Harvey Barnes? He's been relegated. Like, did he?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
I could probably make you a team that's probably better than yours based on relegated teams. To be honest,
what I'd throw in there, just a bit more clarity on it, is that some players like Maddison, like Rafinha, are going to sides better than us. So I'm not talking about the rare kind of shining lights that you would have. I'm kind of talking your general, they're in out of the side sort of things. And I'm not saying that we can't go. You can't go to a division below and pick out the best players. But when your overall transfer focus or mantra is to buy players who are sort of in a division lower than you all the time, then it's about whether they're going to bring something more.
Palace are really good at it, though. Palace are fantastic at it. I mean, they brought in Eze, Elise, Guehi at the back. They're all championship players. There's a number of players. Palace are the best, probably, club at bringing players from the championship into the Premier League, really.
I do get the other end, though. I know I've just completely made Gnonto to be like Messi, but I do get the other end. Like, I get where people could be negative on Gnonto, saying we're getting a player that's clearly got attitude because he was nothing like himself for Leeds last season. Even if he didn't get the Everton move, he should have probably got his head down at Leeds, got them promoted and got his move that way and absolutely smashed it and got the price tag up. And he should have just focused on his football, got his head down. That was probably a bad way to treat a team. So I do get it. I get why people will question.
It was a freak
Gnonto.
league as well in the Championship last year. I mean, we got 90 points. I think we were only the second team in history to get 90 points and not be promoted. So that you get promoted on 90 points basically every year for the last like 15 years.
And it was only the last 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, we
just
fell
kind of
away.
yeah.
We started shockingly as well because we didn't have a proper team and we had the Gnonto stuff going on and stuff like that. That was we dropped tons of points.
The irony, yeah.
So we have kind of touched on the Gnonto thing. I mean, Paul's sold now. He was 50-50, but the way Scott just talked him up, he's not Gnonto, he's Ronaldo. We're going to call him Ronaldo. Yes, I like him. I like what Scott said about him. We've got a couple of minutes, and you've only got about a couple of sentences to tell us about Phillips because we might get him, and then we are going to end the show because this has been a good bit of information about Gnonto. Give yourself a plug, though. I mean, plug yourself up here. Your channel.
Yeah, so mine's quite obvious. My channel is my name. I just make content on Leeds basically every day. I'm sure I'm quite easy to find. If any of you are interested in sort of Championship Leeds United stuff, then that's sort of where I lie with. Really, tried a bit with the Euros. It wasn't really for me. I'm much more Leeds focused, I guess. I did a video today with sort of an EFL sort of expert, a guy called Gabe Sutton, really interesting guy that's doing quite well. So yeah, if you are interested, then be sure to check that out.
We do have an opposition fan guest on. So when we play a team in the Premier League, we have them on before we play them, like the night before we play them. So when you get promoted next season, we've got you now. Don't worry. That's your motivation. When you get promoted next season, we'll go. Yeah, we'll have you on the show for representing Leeds before we play Leeds when you're in the Premier League after this season. There you go. There's a bit of positivity for you. A sentence on Phillips. We're linked to Phillips before we finish. We're finishing on the hour. Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, Phillips is a player that was fantastic for Leeds United, came through the academy, brilliant. Under Bielsa was probably the player that made the whole system work. He's the best. He's best at getting the ball off the centre halves and spreading it to the wide men. So if you wanted a Gnonto who's going to hug the touchline either side, he's absolutely fantastic at that. That is his aim. He also is good at breaking up play. Probably lacks a bit of pace at times in there and maybe a bit less agile. And obviously the City move hasn't helped. He hasn't played there properly. But, I mean, if you get anything like the Phillips we had under Bielsa, you're getting probably one of the best DMs in the league, probably. But he's just, his form's just depreciated. But that's what happens if you don't play. It'd be like, I don't know, if you played football yourself and you come back in after not playing for you, you're not going to be as sharp. And bear in mind, if you're 2% off it in the Prem, you're nowhere near it. So, I think with Phillips, there's got to be a player in there still. And would he work under Dyche? Probably. And especially if you're trying to hit with pace and attack with pace, then he was fantastic at us at dropping in between the two centre halves and spraying long passes to either flank. That was his aim. And then we'd have flying fullbacks overlapping, Ayling, Firpo, Alioski at times, and that was one of our main scoring methods under Bielsa. So, as I said, if you're looking to sort of use the flanks, then Phillips would be perfect for that.
Yeah, he could be a good one to bring in for Onana. Paul, do you like Phillips? Are you game for him or not? I spoke to you about him, Paul.
No, we haven't chatted about him really. I like what he's done in the past. Like you say, spraying the balls out, sort of diagonal to the two wingers is key. Don't see him higher up the pitch from what I remember. He'd kind of like a Gareth Barry kind of role, if you like Scott said, breaking up the play and then feeding the ball to the guys who've got a bit more pace outside. So will he do a decent job for us? Depends if he can get through Dyche's pre-season. So we'll have to see what he's like on a bleed setting.
When he was at Leeds, I mean, we were one of the best pressing teams in the league under Bielsa, and the sort of work rate was never questioned at all. So it was interesting, that quote. that Pep made, and I think he's apologised for it because it'll probably stick with him for the rest of his career now. But wasn't particularly a fan of that when he said it. But Phillips is not my favourite player anyway. Now he's left. Yeah, that is true. He had an awful injury record when he was at us. That is definitely true, and that's something you would end up with. There's
a comment for you here. Apparently, some Leeds fans think we are cheapskates for signing Harrison on loan instead of a permanent. Well, we've got one on. Are we cheapskates?
Yeah. But if you want to buy him permanent, 10 million quid, you can have it. No, probably more. Probably a bit about 15, but you can generally. You're not having Gnonto, but you can have Harrison all day. He's going to go anyway.
Well, do you know what? Last season, Harrison for me was. He has got ability. There's no doubt in that. I've watched him for Leeds, and he's been good for Leeds when you was on it that season. He has got ability, but last season he wasn't that good. So if a player didn't perform that good on the loan, do you go and buy him or do you get him on loan again? I think it makes sense and good business by us to give him another go and see if he's better this season and take it from there.
Having that we've got loan clauses in our players. Not many of them left now. We've only got 2, Harrison and Christensen. But last year we had about 10 players on loan because this is what happens when you get relegated, lads. If you're glad you didn't experience it, half your team leave on loan because you've got some pesky clauses in your contracts. It's just fantastic. But hopefully your club's not stupid enough to do that. But we had about 100 million quid worth of talent when you're in the Championship that couldn't even play for us. Harrison being one of them. They're like the loan crew, I call them. They're not particularly friendly on my channel, and not a lot of Leeds fans are friendly towards them, to be honest. So Harrison, I don't think would be welcome back. I think after what he's done twice now.
No, well, we you know what we've been through. We've been through the crap, and the way I am. Some fans, probably Everton fans, will say, "Oh, you went down. I don't give a shit about the teams that went down." Paul, that Bournemouth game, I still feel stressed from it now when we nearly got relegated. That Bournemouth game, so. I've got respect for any fan that goes through shit with a football club, and like I said, I hope you do better this season, Scott. I really do. I hope you have a good season. I think you will. I really do think you will. I watch a lot of football, and I do watch some Leeds sometimes in the Championship, and I think you'll be okay this season. I really do. As long as you put a bit of the money back in, you'll be straight back up. Last season was weird, like you said. Last season was strong, wasn't it, for the Championship? It really was strong to get promoted.
Yeah,
I think this season
the strongest probably ever been in history. I've got a mate who's a Huddersfield Town fan, and he's basically been there in all his life, and he says I've never seen anything like them that last year. It was just a complete freak. Obviously, they went down again last year, but to League One. But yeah, he was like, "This is just a joke, really." The standard. But this is what happens. You've got the better team, the relegated teams are getting better and better, and the rest of them are just getting worse and worse. So you've got to get that where you can, because with your parachute payments, 42 mil, 35 mil second year, 15 mil third year, you get to the third year and you're knackered basically.
Do you know what, Scott? Some Everton fans was like, just get relegated, it'll be fine. We can rebuild.
The most stupid thing ever.
I had some proper arguments. I was like,
ridiculous.
What are you on about? And I really did have some
boneheaded thing.
It's the dumbest. I've seen it. We get it at Leeds. Let's not go up because we win games in the Championship.
Rebuilding the Championship, yeah. Oh my God.
That is one of those takes that is the worst take. It's like I don't even know what. You might as well walk up.
Then my example. Do you know what? Sometimes last season they were saying, do what Burnley have done, get relegated, rebuild, and come back up. Well, Burnley went back down, by the way. They didn't rebuild that good. Do you know what I mean? They wasn't that good. They've lost company now, and they didn't do that well. And it doesn't work. You do not want your team to get relegated. You don't.
Bone-headed take I think I've ever heard anyone say in my life, to be honest. Because I'm telling you, the thing is with it, I've got to be honest with you. You, as I said, you won't ever been relegated. So you won't have experienced it. When you beat Rotherham at home, or you beat Burton Albion at home, or you beat Plymouth at home, I'm telling you for a fact, winning's brilliant, but it doesn't feel the same. I didn't get anywhere near as much excitement last year as you do from winning any game in the Premier League. It's just, you're like, well, that's what we should be doing anyway. There's a bit of arrogance there, and two, it's just, I don't know. And there's no crowd, there's no away fans that come. There's about 500 fans that. It's the whole thing's just crap. It's absolute crap.
Go and say the same thing to a Bolton fan, a Charlton fan, an Oldham fan. Christ Almighty, do you know what I mean? It's
Derby County used to be massive. Derby used to be quite big as well. They used to always be in the Premier League, and those teams it feels like they don't exist now. You don't see them much, do you? They're in the Championship.
Hey, Wimbledon.
Derby went down to League Two. League Two as well, yeah.
You know, one of the worst things as well, Everton would be the same if they went down, because you're the big fish in the small pond then. everybody wants to beat you. It's like the cup final every game. Like the attendances sell out every week, and we're hated anyway, so that doesn't help. But every team wants to beat you. Like Cardiff away, and they get 30,000 there. They haven't had 30,000 in 5 years. Probably isn't. Like it's absolute tripe. It's so crap. Don't go down. If I can tell you one thing, do not get relegated. It's bloody shit.
Listen to Scott, Everton fans. I think we had a big storm, and the Crystal Palace relegation battle, we could have gone down. Then the next season, the Bournemouth one, we could have gone down. Last season, if we didn't get the point deduction, we finished mid-table. So Everton fans do believe that we're not going to be in a relegation battle this season. So we're on the right path. Right, people, thanks for listening. Gnonto, we've tried to give you as much information as we can. Scott's got some good stuff there, to be fair. It was a good listen. We will cover other players. I've seen other players in the comments that you've all mentioned. We can't cover every player in one show. This has been a Gnonto show and a bit of a Phillips. That's why we got the Leeds fan on. Well, thanks, everyone, for your comments. If we didn't get them on, stay with us. We'll have them on next time. Don't worry. We just had so much to say on Gnonto. Jamie, shout out to you. £5 just paying Dan's Rocky royalties for the month. Do you like Rocky, Scott?
I've seen it, but it's not on my sort of hit list to watch. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, I'll probably over the top. I mean, I watch it 5 times a day.
That's another good Stallone film, that, Dan. That's another good Stallone film, that, Over the Top. You'd love that.
Yeah, I've watched that one. Yeah, I've watched all of them. I like me Rockies. Eye the Tiger. And do you know what, actually, Jamie? It's funny you said that comment because, do you know Gnonto? What country does what international is he? He's Italian, isn't he? Italian stallion. Gnonto,
like an Italian stallion.
Gnonto, the Italian. I want him. I want him now. Give me Gnonto, the Italian stallion. Give me Gnonto. Oh. Italian, he's got Eye the Tiger. Gnonto, get him in, Jamie. But thanks, Jamie, for that £5 donation for the channel. We're 40 off 1,000 subscribers, which we've been trying to get for a while. So if you can hit that like and subscribe, please do so. Get behind us. Let us hit 1,000. And it just helps us with the channel. It really does. I mean, at the minute, we pay £20 a month for the channel. So if we can get to 1,000, they'll probably give us £6 a month, and we'll only pay £14 a month for the channel. So get behind us. Help us hit that 1,000 subscribers. We do need it. Up the top is everyone. Drop in the banner. Thanks, Scott, for coming on.
Cheers,
We've loved you.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do
Get on the street, we'll be celebrating. I really do.